The third party didn't just cross a line, they erased boundaries, disrespected history, and acted like my silence meant permission. It didn't. I stayed quiet long enough, hoping dignity would win. But the moment you involved yourself in what was sacred to me, everything changed. You didn't accidentally interfere. You watched, calculated, and stepped in anyway. That's not confusion. That's intention. I can tolerate misunderstandings, but I refuse to tolerate someone who benefits from pretending they don't know the damage they're causing. What hurts isn't just your presence, it's the audacity to act comfortable in a space you were never invited into. You didn't just go too far, you went exactly where you knew you shouldn't, and now you're shocked I finally noticed. There's something deeply unsettling about someone who smiles while slowly dismantling something they didn't build. I tried to be mature, understanding, patient, but patience ends the moment disrespect becomes deliberate. You didn't steal attention, you exploited vulnerability, and that's a line no apology can erase. The third party always claims innocence, but innocence doesn't move in shadows or thrive on secrecy. I watched you pretend to be harmless while quietly rewriting narratives that weren't yours to touch. You mistook my composure for weakness. Now you're learning the difference between calm and consent. It's not jealousy, it's clarity. I see exactly what you're doing, and I'm no longer looking away. You didn't just insert yourself, you overstayed, overreached, and overestimated your role. There's a special kind of disrespect in knowing someone's attached and choosing to pursue anyway. I stayed silent because I trusted restraint. You took that silence as an invitation to go further. You weren't misunderstood. You were reckless with emotions that weren't yours to gamble with. I never competed with you because what's real doesn't need to fight for legitimacy. You played a dangerous game, assuming I wouldn't speak up. That was your biggest mistake. The moment you crossed from curiosity into interference, you stopped being innocent. I don't hate you, I just see you clearly now. And that clarity changed everything. You didn't just test limits, you ignored them completely and hoped no one would call you out. There's nothing accidental about repeated choices that hurt the same people over and over. I gave grace where boundaries were needed, and you took advantage of both. You wanted attention, validation, and power, but you never considered the emotional wreckage left behind. You inserted yourself into a story already in motion and tried to rewrite the ending. I noticed how bold you became once you thought no one was watching. You didn't just disrespect me, you disrespected the truth and called it confidence. There's a difference between being drawn to someone and deliberately undermining their foundation. I won't explain my pain to someone who benefited from causing it. You went too far the moment you ignored the quiet signals telling you to step back. I watched you normalize behavior that should have never been justified. What you called harmless was actually intrusive, selfish, and deeply calculated. You didn't want love, you wanted access, and that's not the same thing. I won't fight you, I'll simply remove myself from the chaos you helped create. You underestimated how much I see when I choose not to speak. I let things slide for peace, but peace built on disrespect never lasts. You crossed boundaries, then acted surprised when consequences followed. It's always the third party who claims confusion after everything becomes undeniable. I trusted people to do the right thing. You proved how rare that really is. You wanted to be chosen without earning the place you tried to occupy. The moment you ignored empathy, you lost any claim to innocence. I stayed composed while you grew comfortable doing what you knew was wrong. You didn't just interfere, you destabilized something you didn't understand. I won't scream, beg, or compete. I'll simply walk away with my self-respect intact. You confused opportunity with entitlement, and that confusion cost everyone involved. I see now that your kindness had conditions and your interest had an agenda. You didn't fall into the situation. You stepped into it willingly. I stayed quiet to protect the situation. You stayed loud to benefit from it. You crossed emotional lines and pretended they didn't exist. I won't apologize for recognizing disrespect when it finally became impossible to ignore. You thrived in ambiguity because it allowed you to avoid accountability. I trusted restraint. You relied on secrecy. You didn't just overstep, you lingered, hoping no one would stop you. There's nothing brave about pursuing what already belongs to someone else. I watched you blur lines and call it connection.